Here we are in Pawling today with Brother Ed Hauser. Hello, Ed. When did you join the fire department?
I joined the fire department in 1971.
Why did you join, Ed?
I had just moved to Pawling, and I made a friend who was a member of the rescue squad, and he recruited me. So I started my career in the fire department in the rescue squad.
Okay. What was the most unique experience you had as a member?
Oh, that's difficult because there have been a lot of unique experiences, but I think early on I was responding to a rescue call at the Cook farm, and we had a call for a man trapped under a tractor. So I took off with my friend who was also new to Pawling and asked for directions. And the dispatcher paused for a little while and said that they talked to the person who had called, and the person who called said everybody knows where the Cook farm is. And of course we didn't, because we were new to Pawling, but it was a lesson in how ingrained locations are and how they're associated with people's names. So I made a point of starting to learn more about the town and where people lived and what things were called, what the historic names for places were, because back then we didn't have 911, and it was all based on well, it's next to the big red barn, or it's down the street from the large oak tree.
Wow. What was the biggest fire you fought in Pawling?
The biggest fire that I fought, I would say, would be the Annex right in the village of Pawling. There was a historic building that was positioned between the Palmer House, which still exists, is where McKinney and Doyle is, and the Dutchess House, which also still exists. And it got going in the middle of the day, and it was a difficult fire to fight, and it was difficult to keep it from extending to the adjoining buildings. So we set up water curtains on both sides, and at one point we calculated that we were pumping about 8,000 gallons a minute of water with mutual aid from all of the surrounding towns. But that was a big one, and it was quite a lesson.
I see. What was the most serious incident you ever participated in?
Well, the seriousness always comes down to fatalities, and I've responded to a lot of automobile accidents as, both as my early rescue squad experience, but also later on as a fireman. And I think one of the worst ones was a car accident in the middle of the day. A guy fell asleep, apparently drove into a tree at high speed, and the dashboard collapsed and captured him in the car. And I was in the car with him, holding him when he died, and I think that made the biggest impression on me of all the experiences I had.
I bet. What is the biggest difference you have seen in the fire department from when you first joined until now?
Well, it's easy to say the equipment's gotten so much better, but I think the biggest single difference is the inclusion of women in the department. We basically doubled the pool of volunteers when we started to accept women, first in the rescue squad and then as serious firefighters. I think that it changed the tone of the department, it changed the number of people that were involved, and I'm certainly very appreciative for all of the gals who have worked with us for all of these years. Beyond that, the equipment has just gotten so extraordinarily better. We just received delivery of the new ladder truck, which is, even compared to our present ladder truck, which was state-of-the-art 20 years ago, this new ladder truck is remarkable. When I first joined the fire department, we had an old Mack with an extended chassis that had stack of wooden ladders on it, and that was our ladder truck. So now it's all electronic, and it's all controlled with, they're not iPads, but they're little devices that, you can do everything on the truck with.
What difference have you seen in the equipment during your membership? I mean, like turnout care, two hand tools and whatnot?
Well, back when I joined, I don't even remember that we had any power equipment other than pumps. We had, pumps to move water, portable pumps, and we had ventilating fans. But, it was as we progressed that we started to add first chainsaws, and then roof saws, and a lot of power hand tools. And now the new truck has got a whole suite of battery operated tools on it. I was really quite surprised at the number of battery operated tools on the new truck. There are still backup gasoline tools, but that certainly made a big difference. The infrared cameras, I mean, that was something out of popular science when I joined. Nobody could imagine that you would have such a thing. And the different kinds of gas detectors, and we had Scott packs, but they were pretty crude, and we never did any kind of specialized mask fitting or anything like that. We just run what we brung.
I bet. What difference have you seen in the apparatus since you joined? What was the apparatus like back in 1971?
Well, the one thing that is quite different is the size. I mean, the apparatus has gotten a lot bigger, so it requires a different skill set to drive the new apparatus. Back then, we had a Mac that had an open top. It had a windshield and it had a canvas top, which most of the time wasn't on the truck. So you were basically in like an open cockpit airplane. And we had that old funky ladder truck, and we had a Mac pumper from the 30s, which was still in service when I joined. And then we started, I think that's back when we started to purchase Pierce equipment, and we purchased a pumper, and then we purchased the first real ladder truck. And it had a ladder that would go up 54 feet. I think it was more of a modified arborist's truck. It was, it wasn't all that sophisticated, but it did get us up high. And that was purchased after the fire at Trinity Pawling School, where they had to bring in a ladder truck from Brewster in order to get the height that they needed. So it was. And the ambulance, that was another thing. The ambulance was a big white Cadillac. It was a converted hearse primarily. And when I first joined the rescue squad, my friend was an Episcopal minister, and John Tomes was also in the rescue squad. So we would show up. I'm surprised that people didn't get concerned, but we would show up with this ambulance that looked like a hearse, with a medic, a priest, and the undertaker. So that was the primary daytime rescue squad in Pawling for a long time.
Did you ever ride the back step of any of the fire trucks back in the day?
I did.
What was that like?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I realize today how dangerous that could be, but I mean, that was fairly common, especially when we were moving around parade grounds or places like that. I don't think I ever rode the side or the back of a truck to an alarm, but we would certainly transport the troops locally whenever necessary on the outside of the rig.
Did you hold any firematic or administrative ranks in the Pawling Fire Department in your 50 years?
I did. One of the first job I had was secretary of the department, and I as secretary, I had to learn the names of all of the firemen, and some of them were kind of difficult to pronounce. And I know even to this day, our secretary has some trouble pronouncing all of the names. But that really got me to know the membership. Then I became a lieutenant in the hose company, a captain, and ultimately I was first assistant chief of the department. And that was before the Unified Fire District was formed. Back then, the fire department was a village fire department. The town had a fire district, and the town bought, for $1 a year, they bought fire services from the village. And the department itself actually bought the ambulance. That was the purpose of our carnival, was to pay for the ambulance. So I was first assistant chief until it was my turn to be chief, and my wife told me that she was pregnant and that there was no way she would want me to be chief when we had an infant in the house, so I had to step down. And then subsequently I became treasurer of the department. I was treasurer for 5 years, all of which I enjoyed.
It's amazing, amazing. Okay, Ed,
All right, cool.
thank you.
Thank you very much.